Serious, what is one question you'd like to ask a minority group, cultural, social, sexual, etc., out of sincere curiosity, but have been unable to do so for fear of seeming socially or culturally insensitive and receiving harsh reprisal or consequences? Imagine that tomorrow, you read in the news that Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia have given New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine to Iran, and that the Americans who live there now have to leave or live under an apartheid system. An allied US, Canadian, EU army tried to intervene but was defeated in less than a week. Iranians start moving to this area in droves of millions, and the Americans left behind have to live as second-class citizens, being thrown out of their houses so that the Iranians can bulldoze them and build mosques. Flash forward to when this has been going on for almost 80 years. Wouldn't you be a little pissed at Iranians? Hispanic here, we imitate Americans by speaking Spanish with English accent, and adding Asian at the end of every Spanish word. Probably doesn't make sense to you, but to us it does. Just like when people mock Spanish language by adding letter O at the end of every word.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like nice try Baskin Robbins. I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment. But please like and subscribe.
But how could an asexual person be sex positive and enjoy sex? I thought they were asexual? There are a lot of extremely conflicting answers to this question, some directly contradicting others. I understand that there are a lot of different perspectives and experiences, but based on how different they are, doesn't it seem ridiculous to use such a blanket term to describe things that are completely different from each other? To add some historical context to what you Music of the Einer has already said, this is an excerpt from Mississippi's statement of secession leading up to the Civil War. GT, slave labor supplies the product which constitutes by far the largest and most important portions of commerce of the earth. These products are peculiar to the climate verging on the tropical regions, and by an imperious law of nature, none but the black race can bear exposure to the tropical sun. So it was certainly understood that darker skin tone was more resilient to the sun. I see other comments and I call BS TBH due to the inherent bias of recognizing accents, the environment and circumstances they meet other Asians. I'm Korean, born in Korea, raised there half my life. Sometimes, Chinese people look Korean, Korean people look Japanese, Japanese people look Taiwanese, and this is only considering their biological attributes. For me, the biggest giveaways to one's ethnicity is their style. Clothes, and hairstyle, makeup styles are legitimate factors that reflects one's culture. Other than that, using biological features alone is really difficult to tell apart unless you are generalizing between Southeast and East Asians. Most girls I've had sex with like it when I pull their hair, particularly if I'm fucking them doggy style. But how do black girls feel about this? And can I safely do that if they're wearing a weave? I've always felt too awkward to ask about this, and the result is that I just don't pull their hair and I feel like they're getting worse sex than they otherwise could. There's that whole stereotype about black women not liking when people touch their hair, and I don't know how serious it is. I was running my hands through a girl's hair while we were making out and she was like, "You know I'm black, right?" And I jokingly responded, "Holy shit, are you serious?" But it actually made me kind of self-conscious, and I didn't know if she meant I don't like people touching my hair or doing that is pointless because I have a weave, or that doesn't feel good to black hair, or what. TLDR, how does black hair work in intimate relationships? A question I can finally answer. Speaking from experience, it all depends on the girl and how her hair is. Meaning, is she wearing a weave or her natural hair, which for black women is both a lot of maintenance to take care of. Especially if it's weave, because with weave it's our natural hair braided, which tends to hurt if she had it done recently. So pulling on the weave during sex can hurt and give her a sore head or headache. With natural hair it depends on how thick her hair is and how many products she puts in. Getting oily hands is not fun. Don't get me wrong though, many black women I know enjoy it, but will complain later or be upset cause their hair was messed up in a good session. So my advice to you is just ask, before sexy times, obviously cause, because it doesn't hurt to ask. Also, get silk pillows or sheets, it's great for our hair. I have a personality that is more traditionally feminine. I normally don't sound gay, but if I'm feeling comfortable around someone, that gay voice comes out a bit more. Basically it's the most comfortable way for me to talk, but 95% of the time I sort of mask it without realizing it because it's been so stigmatized my whole life. I remember seeing that Sister Wives show and all of the wives hated each other. But hated the husband even more. Then they had that show My 7 Wives. And like the first wife looked like she was already done with this shit, but had nowhere else to go. The other wives also looked like they were constantly depressed and angry. Plus, the husband's business was failing and he was bankrupt due to having 20. Where do you live? I've gotten called out in California to referring to someone as a black person, but here in Atlanta that's definitely the primary term that I hear. Bay Area, California, definitely all white folks calling me out. They also assumed that anyone from the South was racist, but I heard way more racist comments there than I ever did living in ATL. And yeah, always as an adjective, never as a noun, which applies to, almost? I suppose there's exceptions, all adjectives.
This year, like I said, I'm having a midlife crisis. I've started a YouTube channel and I'm on a big health kick. One thing that I found is very easy to eat, very easy to prepare, is I heat up chickpeas with chicken broth and tikka masala. And there are two schools of thought about how you should eat beans. Some people believe you should buy the dry beans and soak them, but I tried that and it was a disaster. So I buy canned beans every time. And if I'm opening like 2 cans a day to be on this diet, it is a massive pain in the ass if the can has this jagged metal edge. You know, I'm worried if like little bits of metal are getting into my food, I'm going to slice up my intestines. So I found this special can opener that actually opens the can in a way that is completely safe, no metal's getting in your food, and it is 1,000 times better than any other can opener I've ever used. So if you wind up, opening a lot of cans for whatever reason, maybe you've got a cat or something, you must buy this can opener from my affiliate link.
Not transgender, but I hang out with trans people and we've discussed this question a few times. Why go through with transitioning when it's much safer to be a feminine man? Why put your body through hormone treatment and multiple surgeries when you could just be a masculine woman? It always leads back to gender dysmorphia. In short, it goes much deeper than being feminine or masculine. Their bodies just aren't the bodies they were meant to have. Imagine what it would be like to have a vagina when you know you should have a penis, or suddenly having a peen when you should have a vag. That body-mind disconnect is extremely uncomfortable, and sometimes so disruptive that people need to change their bodies to feel whole. Disclaimer, this is just what my transsexual friends say explained to me. Everyone's experience with body dysmorphia and being trans is going to be different. I hope I worded this in a way that makes sense. Have a wonderful day. I'm qualified to answer this, I guess. I spent a lot of time in Utah for things not related to polygamy, but I learned a lot about those communities. The husband rarely if ever sleeps with more than one wife at once. All of the wives sleep in one or more rooms in different beds, except for the head wife. She's normally the oldest or favorite. She also keeps the others in line. Bickering etc. is allowed, but not in front of the husband. I live in southern Utah and see lots of polygamists around here. Do any of you ever sleep with more than one wife at the same time? What about literally sleeping? Do you have a bed per wife, or is there like a shack-sized bed somewhere? Also, how do you manage jealousy between spouses, if it exists? Does light skin versus dark skin black racism exist? One of my Navy buddies was dark and he always used to make fun of the light-skinned black guys, but I never knew if he was being serious or not. Till colorism is a thing that is separate from racism. Thanks for the enlightenment, Reddit. I have a friend from Rwanda and he is literally an African American. I have heard a few black people say that since they were born in America, they just want to be referred to as black or black American. We have African Americans like Elon Musk or Charlize Theron that aren't what people picture when hearing that term. Then there are Americans that moved here from Haiti, Jamaica, Brazil, etc. that are black but not African. As a fan of MMA, I have heard Paul Daly, a black British athlete, referred to as African American even though he is neither African nor American. So I have 2 questions. First, is African American any better than just black? And to black African Americans, does that term ever feel divisive or like it relates you to a continent that you've never experienced? I know my ancestors were Irish, but I am 5th or 6th generation American and don't have any sort of connection to Ireland. I just feel like a plain old American. Would it be better if we just treated black people similarly like plain old Americans? For the record, I have no problem calling people African American if that's what they prefer. But it feels a little uncomfortable for me to assume. I usually just say black. Do you consider that offensive? I don't want to offend anyone. You're putting the adjective before the person. Source: I work with individuals with intellectual disabilities. We never say intellectually disabled individuals. You're a person first. This concept is called person-first language, which is taught in basic psychology classes and in all trainings when working with individuals with intellectual disabilities and various other human services fields. Do Asians know what nationality other Asians are just by looking at them? For instance, I can't tell if a white guy is American, German, or Russian just by looking at him. Can an Asian tell if someone is Chinese or Japanese or Korean, etc. just by looking at someone, or are you stuck in the same boat as the rest of us? Not black, but am in medical school. Yes, black people can get sunburned. It's much easier for fair-skinned people to get sunburned, and that's why skin cancer is much more common among Caucasians, but people of any race can still get sunburned and get skin cancer. Not a midget, but I am 411. There is a very large woman at my work who farts constantly in my workspace. I feel like I'm being gassed to death. Anytime I ask anyone else, they say they don't smell it, so I'm guessing I just smell it because I'm closer to her asshole, height-wise. Yes and no? There's certain facial features, fashion styles, and other sort of cues that can cue you in, but there's also a lot of overlap, so it does get difficult to know more often than not. There's also a lot of countries in Asia, and if you don't come from China, Japan or Korea, sometimes people forget the others even exist. I've had both Asians and non-Asians guess I'm everything from Chinese to Cambodian. Only other Filipinos seem to be able to guess my ethnicity right away.
This year, like I said, I'm having a midlife crisis. I've started a YouTube channel and I'm on a big health kick. One thing that I found is very easy to eat, very easy to prepare, is I heat up chickpeas with chicken broth and tikka masala. And there are two schools of thought about how you should eat beans. Some people believe you should buy the dry beans and soak them, but I tried that and it was a disaster. So I buy canned beans every time. And if I'm opening like 2 cans a day to be on this diet, it is a massive pain in the ass if the can has this jagged metal edge. You know, I'm worried if like little bits of metal are getting into my food, I'm going to slice up my intestines. So I found this special can opener that actually opens the can in a way that is completely safe, no metal's getting in your food, and it is 1,000 times better than any other can opener I've ever used. So if you wind up, opening a lot of cans for whatever reason, maybe you've got a cat or something, you must buy this can opener from my affiliate link.
Gay men, what's up with the gay voice? Is it something that you consciously do? Is it a way of showing off your sexual preference? Can't think of the right term? Have you always had the voice, or does it happen as you come out or realize that you're gay? Family of gay men, when did you notice the change in their voice? They're called payat. It's one of the commandments not to shave the corners of the head. Not sure if this area of head has some sort of symbolic meaning that makes it significant. I also read it might be due to an obligation to distinguish yourself from idol worshippers, as this was a common practice amongst them in the biblical times. I think only growing out the sideburns, and particularly curling them, is just the custom of certain communities. Having generally long hair would also meet the biblical criteria. If you're interested, Jews are also not meant to shave their beards with a razor blade due to the religious significance of the beard. Muslims, what is your opinion on homosexuals and people who leave Islam? I have a friend who is Muslim, and in a conversation about gay marriage, suddenly comes out with they should all be stoned. I hope he is a minority, but considering the laws in some Muslim majority countries, probably not. For me, it's not something I consciously picked up, but I can consciously put it on or off. I think I mostly got it because I spent a lot of time hanging out with girls as a kid. I don't have brothers, most of my cousins are girls, and I was too afraid to talk to boys as a kid. Then I quickly learned to hide it in elementary school because my classmates and older family members made it very clear it was unacceptable for me to talk that way. I live in a somewhat conservative area and work in a warehouse, so I still consciously hide it, but when I'm with my non-work friends, I feel comfortable enough to drop the act and sound gay. Sometimes I also put it on when I'm in more middle-class settings because it somewhat masks my redneck Canadian accent. Not great at explaining, but I give it a shot. Basically, it just means the lack of sexual attraction. Like you look at people and think about having sex with them or something. Some asexuals are sex positive, indifferent, or sex repulsed. They don't even want to think about it nor have it. If a person doesn't have romantic attraction, they are called aromantics. Ca. 25 of the asexuals are also aromantic, but most of them aren't. If you want to know more, check into rasexuality or Here Smile.
I turned 36 this year and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out. But there is an amazing kind of earplug. It's called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.